Welcome, brothers. I'm Johnny. I invite you to join me on this journey of the awakened masculine. Realise your potential and remember who you are. So far in this series, I've named a lot of problems and I've talked about a lot of issues facing men in their lives and relationships. But today, I want to start talking about solutions. Before we get into it, I want to ask you another question. What are you currently blaming in your life for things that aren't going right? What are you blaming that is outside yourself? Is it your job? Is it your financial situation? Is it your partner, your kids? Today, I want to talk about one of the single most powerful shifts any man can make to change his life. It's not a technique or a hack, and that decision is to take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. I realise there could be a lot of resistance to that. It's a very challenging proposition for a lot of people, but I want you to stay with me. This simple decision will have a profound effect on your life and your relationships. If you're blaming external things on the problems in your life, then you're always going to be stuck. This is a victim mentality. But if you take 100% responsibility for everything in your life, then this completely flips the victim mentality around, and it gives you the power to make very dramatic changes in your life. So I want to tell you about where this concept first came to me. I read a book by Jocko, Willink and Leif Babin called Extreme Ownership. These guys are ex-Navy SEALs, and in this book it outlines the concept that these military leaders use in the field of battle to command their units, and all the leaders take 100% responsibility for everything that goes on in their sphere. Even if they're not directly responsible, they are still in charge of the men who may have been responsible. The core principle of this book is that everything within your sphere is 100% your responsibility. No excuses, everything. So when I read this book, something really landed for me. Not because I was trying to build a military unit. The authors, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, have taken this core concept and they're now applying it to the corporate world, the field of business. I realised this same concept can be applied to a family unit. Now, obviously, I'm not training a military unit, but the core principle can easily be transferred to your own life as well as the family that you are leading. So if something's going wrong in my relationship or in my life, I own all of it. If my finances are struggling, that's on me. If my kids are having a hard time, I have to look at my part in that. If my relationship's gone cold, this is on me. I take responsibility for it. And this requires a very high level of humility. We have to be able to let go of our egos. A strong ego will really get in the way of applying this concept, because part of taking 100% responsibility for your life means accepting your mistakes. It means accepting your shortcomings. Sometimes it may involve looking foolish. But if we are prepared to let go of our egos, accept responsibility, accept our mistakes, then something amazing happens. Because every time we make a mistake and we own it completely, this gives us an opportunity to improve, to grow, and to not make that mistake again. Now, this can be a long, slow and painful process. Once you start putting it into action, it has a really profound effect on relationships, especially. Most men have never been asked to develop this level of humility. It's not easy to be wrong, but if we accept our mistakes and we listen to other people's perspectives, if we're prepared to look foolish and sit in the discomfort of not knowing or making a mistake, then what is on the other side of that is growth and improvement. What does this actually mean in practice? It means anything that is going wrong in your life and your relationship, your wife's behavior, your kids, your financial situation, your inner peace, all of these things are your responsibility. You don't get to blame any external factors on your problems. Whenever a problem comes up, you ask yourself, what can I do about this? What have I contributed to this situation? This is such a powerful shift because you change from being the victim of your life to a powerful agent. Victims have no power. They're just acted upon. But if you take responsibility, then you get to decide how things go. You get to decide what happens next, how you can improve, how you can not make that mistake again, how you can gain new knowledge. Because accepting responsibility, even for the things that aren't directly your fault, it doesn't make you weaker. It actually makes you stronger. And this is a bit of a paradox because in the moment, you might feel weak when you have to admit your mistakes or you have to look foolish because something you didn't work out how you wanted it to. But when you put the power back into your command, then you have the power to change your situation and you're no longer a victim. And I've spoken about this before, but these blaming behaviors could have well started when we were younger. They could have been behaviors that we learned from parents. So it's very easy to see how everyone slips back into this mode of wanting to blame other people for their problems. You own everything, you can change everything. When you blame everything, you can change nothing. When you start applying this concept, something very special happens. When you get used to dropping the ego, accepting your mistakes, admitting your faults, once you get used to how that feels, you realize the power in what you're doing. You gain a kind of momentum because the mistakes become like a curriculum and it gives you a way to improve and move forwards in your life. In the book Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink talks about after every mission, the commanders all sit down together with the squads and they talk about what went wrong in each mission, what they could have improved on. They accept their mistakes and they learn from them. Now, I think it's important at this point to talk about what taking 100% responsibility is not. Because this is not about self-blame. I'm not telling you to wallow in your failures. It's not punishing yourself for what went wrong. It's not wallowing in shame or pity. There is no room for self-pity in this framework. So you see what went wrong, you accept it, you learn from it, you move forward. It's a simple, clean process that means you're always learning and improving. You can apply this to all parts of your life. Responsibility is about action and about what to do next. It's not about getting stuck in feelings or emotions. It's a very practical framework. It also doesn't mean being a doormat. We're not taking responsibility for things that are outside of our sphere, things that we can do nothing about. Because when you take 100% responsibility, you're not being a pushover. You know what is within your sphere of control and you know what is your responsibility. I also want to say something about the word sorry. This word is overused. When you think about it, it's actually fairly meaningless. It's a way to close down a conversation, try and smooth over someone's discomfort. I rarely apologize. I accept my mistakes. If I've done something wrong or if I've done something stupid, I accept it, I own it, and then I move on. There is no need to apologize. When a man says sorry automatically, this is just another people-pleasing behavior. It's a way of smoothing over his partner's emotions so he doesn't have the discomfort of dealing with them. Do instead is I look at what happened, I accept responsibility, I own it clearly, and then I say what I'm going to do about it. I say how I'm going to improve or move beyond the situation. I also want to say something about this in relation to numbing behaviors and addictions. Because when a man can own his part in his addictions and his numbing behaviours, then he can start to make a change. And this is another very powerful shift that a man can make to improve his life and his connection with himself. Because if you are still being controlled by urges and compulsions and addictions, then you're really not in charge. You're letting these substances or these behaviours control you, and that is not good leadership. As a strong, solid leader, you need to be free of these urges and these compulsions, these addictions, because that is true leadership. This is about leading yourself. It's not just a health choice. So, why do this? Why take 100% responsibility for your life? When I started using this concept in my life, I noticed something pretty amazing happening, especially in conflict situations with my partner. She comes to me in a storm. She's not happy because something's gone wrong, something's not right, maybe there's a problem with the car, and she's in a storm and she's ready for a fight. But when I fully accept responsibility for what she's bringing to me, I accept it, I own it, and then I tell her what I'm going to do about it. But she immediately calms down because she can see that I've owned it and I've already told her what I'm going to do about it. So she knows it's going to get sorted. And there's no fight. We don't even have a fight. It's just an exchange where she gives me feedback and I tell her what I'm going to do about it. It's a very simple process, and it can be very difficult to not want to defend, justify, or explain our actions. But none of these things are necessary. We take full responsibility and then we say what we're going to do about it. We move forwards. Then it's over. There's no argument. If you can drop your ego and use this process, it really is life-changing. I guarantee that it will stop many of the arguments that happen between you and your partner. It doesn't stop the female emotional storm from coming. The storm will still come, and she will still need to move through her emotions. So you may use this process, but you will still have to sit with her emotions, at least for a time. But I'm sure that the storm will pass much more quickly and easily if you adopt these principles. And I want to be really clear about something here. You cannot perform this. You can only do this when you're 100% genuine, and she will be able to feel whether you're being genuine. A man performing accountability and a man who's genuinely owning accountability are two very different things. The first one, the performance will just shut her down. But if you can do this with genuine accountability, you can start to build trust with your partner, piece by piece. If you keep doing this, eventually she'll realize that she can trust you. This is hard. This is really hard, and I'm not going to pretend that I've got it all figured out. I actually had an argument with my wife last night. I still struggle sometimes. Being out here this morning and filming this, I've realised my part in what happened last night. So now I feel I can honestly step forward, take responsibility, own my mistakes, and move forwards. The reflex to defend our egos and our positions is very strong, and it can be very hard to let that go. One of the places I struggle the most with this, even now, is when I make mistakes that involve my children. When I let my kids down especially, I feel a lot of anger at myself because my feelings for my kids are so strong. It makes the sting that much harder when I screw it up and when I let them down. And I guess the same thing applies with my wife. And this is the edge that I'm living at now, because it's easy to own the things that aren't so important, that don't matter, but it can be very hard to own the things that are really important to us. They're the ones that hurt the most when we feel genuinely ashamed or angry at ourselves. So I want to close with this, because everything that I'm going to talk about in this series, everything is built on this foundation, this whole concept of taking 100% responsibility for our lives, our families, and our relationships. If you want to build conscious leadership in your relationship, you can't do that unless you take 100% responsibility for everything within your sphere. The conscious leadership that I want to explore much later in the series, this is all based on this responsibility. Leading your relationship with love and devotion and presence starts here. It's the willingness to stop looking outward and start looking inward for the solutions. Responsibility is not a burden. Once you pick it up, you will not want to put it down, because it gives you all the power and you're no longer the victim. So in the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the body, the spiritual connection with our bodies, sobriety, physical discipline. These are all essential parts of being an awakened masculine. The relationship a man has with his body is all part of the inner work. The inner work depends on a man's strong connection with his physical body. So if anything in this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave me a comment. Let's get this conversation going. Keep doing the work, brothers. Keep showing up. Realize your potential and remember who you are. I'll see you in the next one.